All right, let's dive in. Today we've got a real redemption story for you. It's about a programming language, one that started out as, let's be honest, the annoying teenager of the internet. But it grew up. It became one of the most powerful, most sophisticated tools out there. We are, of course, talking about the incredible transformation of JavaScript.
So let's kick things off with a quote that really, I think, sets the stage perfectly. It's from a book called Beginning JavaScript, and it says that JavaScript enhancements should be a bonus, not essential. Now that might sound obvious to us today, but back then, this was a revolutionary idea. It was a total turning point, the moment people started thinking about a more responsible way to use JavaScript. This is really what kickstarted its whole comeback story.
But, before we get to the hero of the story, we got to talk about the villain it used to be. I mean, to really appreciate how far JavaScript has come, we have to go back, way back, to the chaotic, Wild West days of the early web. Oh man, if you were on the internet back in the late 90s or early 2000s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was the age of DHTML, right? Every website had glittery mouse trails, text flying across the screen, and pop-up ads. So many pop-up ads. These gratuitous effects, as the book puts it, drove users crazy and frankly gave JavaScript a really, really bad name.
And this right here, this is the heart of the problem. The code was just a mess. You had JavaScript logic, like this onSubmit thing, crammed right into the HTML. Think about that. Your structure, your presentation, your behavior, everything was all mixed up in one giant file. It was a complete nightmare to maintain, what we'd call spaghetti code.
So obviously this couldn't last. It was just unsustainable. For the web to actually grow up and become what it is today, something had to change, and change in a big way. But the answer wasn't some flashy new tech. Nope, it was a completely different way of thinking about the problem.
And that's where this new philosophy comes in. The whole redemption arc for JavaScript started with one simple but incredibly powerful idea, the separation of concerns. It was a brand new way to think about building for the web, and it was the key to bringing some much-needed order to all that chaos.
And this philosophy gave birth to a concept called unobtrusive JavaScript. The idea is actually pretty straightforward. A website should work perfectly fine with just HTML and CSS. That's the baseline. Then you can add JavaScript on top as this extra layer, an enhancement, for the cool interactive stuff. But, and this is the crucial part, if that JavaScript isn't there for some reason, the site doesn't break. This one change made the web way more accessible and a whole lot more reliable.
And this right here, this is the new world order, perfectly laid out. Think of it like this. You've got three pillars. First, structure. That's your HTML. It's the skeleton of the page. Then presentation. That's your CSS, the clothes, the paint, the style. And finally, behavior. That's your JavaScript, all the interactivity and actions. By keeping them separate in their own files, they each get to do what they do best without tripping over each other. Suddenly, things were clean, organized, and way, way more powerful.
Okay, so this new philosophy started to take hold, and it was really pushed forward by some super influential thinkers. People who could look past all the messy parts of JavaScript and see the beautiful, elegant language hiding underneath. And you can't talk about this without mentioning this quote from Douglas Crockford. His book, JavaScript: The Good Parts, was an absolute game changer. It was like a lightning bolt for the community. He basically said, hey, we don't need to get rid of JavaScript. We just need to be smarter about how we use it. We need to focus on the amazing things it can do and just stop using the bad stuff.
So Crockford went ahead and literally made a list of what he called the bad parts. Things like global variables, right? Where different parts of your code could accidentally mess with each other. Or the eval function, a huge security risk. Even something that seems small, like the double equals sign, could lead to all sorts of weird bugs. His advice was super clear. Just don't use these.
And on the flip side, he highlighted the good parts. And this is where it gets exciting. These are the features that make JavaScript so uniquely powerful. We're talking about concepts like treating functions just like any other variable, so you can pass them around wherever you want, or using things called closures to write safer, more contained code. By zeroing in on these elegant parts, developers finally started to unlock what the language could really do.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this more focused, more elegant JavaScript actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at some code.
Just look at the difference here. This example, which is inspired by the book Eloquent JavaScript, is so clean. It's readable. It does exactly what it says it's doing. Get the paragraphs, and then move one of them. That's it. It is simple, it is clear, and it is a million miles away from that tangled mess we saw earlier.
And hey, this whole evolution wasn't just about making code look prettier. It was fundamental. Modern JavaScript gave us powerful new tools like async and await, and these completely changed the game for one of the hardest parts of the language, handling things that don't happen right away, like fetching data from a server. It took these confusing, nested chains of callbacks and turned them into code that you can read like a simple step-by-step list of instructions.
So when you step back and look at it, this whole journey, from a misunderstood tool for making annoying pop-ups to this incredibly sophisticated language, it's had a huge, massive impact on the web we use every single day.
And really, the big takeaway is this. It was never just about writing better-looking code. This whole shift in philosophy gave us a web that's more stable and so much easier to work with. It made websites more accessible so they work for everybody, and by focusing on its strengths, JavaScript finally grew up. It unlocked its real potential, and that maturity is what paved the way for all the amazing frameworks and libraries that we depend on today.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. The biggest evolution in JavaScript's history didn't come from a new piece of technology. It came from a new philosophy, a change in mindset. So as we look to the future, you have to wonder, what's the next big idea? The next philosophical shift that's going to drive the next great transformation of the web?